Introducing the Marvel Legends Maximum Series Spider-Man, the pinnacle of collectible craftsmanship. Inspired by the bold, dynamic comic book artistry of the 1990s, a time when Spider-Man was redefined for a new generation, this figure captures the essence of an era where power, agility, and style met on the page. Meticulously engineered to honor the legend himself. Interchangeable hands, alternate head sculpts, signature web accessories. Each piece, a statement of excellence. Whether displayed as an icon of heroism or captured in motion for the ultimate battle, this is more than a figure, it's a masterpiece. The Marvel Legends Maximum Series Spider-Man, for those who demand nothing less than the extraordinary. Marvel Legends. Collect with distinction.
Hello and welcome to the channel. And today's video we are going to be looking at the newly released Hasbro Marvel Legends Maximum Series Spider-Man. So here we are. The day has finally come where we get a look at the highly controversial Marvel Legends Maximum Series Spider-Man. Everybody knows the story, right? Hasbro comes out and announces this new project that they're going to be putting out, in terms of their Marvel Legends line, which is the Maximum Series line, where basically what they're trying to do is create the ultimate offering for a particular character, and they're going to charge you as if you were buying an import figure, right? They didn't outright say that, but that's basically what their intent is. Their intent is to compete with the import lines such as Mayfix, SH Figure Arts. So yeah, this is their attempt to compete with those lines, although they never said it or anything like that. But it's implied, right? That instead of you looking at those lines and for getting, the ultimate representation of a particular figure, they want you to look at their figure and be like, hey, look at what we're gonna give you, for a slightly lower price, domestic pricing, if you buy it in the US, at retail. And you're gonna get something that is, close, maybe not equal in terms of, quality. And, we're gonna give you probably the best representation of that character that, you may not need to have another one after this. Or if you've never had a particular version of this character, this one will give you the best of everything. So pretty much that's what the maximum line is supposed to be. And here we have a Spider-Man figure, which is, probably the 20th or 30th in terms of like comic book versions of Spider-Man that Marvel has released since they've started doing Marvel Legends figures. But this is probably the one that I think a lot of people have wanted, which is a Todd McFarlane style, the version that for many people of our current age, in their late 30s, in their 40s, possibly even, into their 50s and 60s. Well, maybe not those people, but people that grew up reading comics throughout the 80s and the 90s have their, particular version of Spider-Man. If you grew up in the early 80s into the in the late 70s into the 80s, you had the John Romita Sr. version, which was the primary, merchandise evergreen design for Spider-Man for the longest time, until we came upon Todd McFarlane. Todd McFarlane, most people who are fans of my channel, and for people that are, collect action figures and read comics, you know who Todd McFarlane is. So when he jumped on board and began assignment on Amazing Spider-Man, he took the character to new heights, and his design for the character, and not just design as far as look, but the way the character is shown or portrayed, as far as his dynamism. Is that the right word? Dynamism. You know, exaggerated poses. You know, a thinner but muscular frame. You know, the the trademark spaghetti webbing. You know, a lot of things that the current Spider-Man can be attributed to comes back to Todd McFarlane and his version of the character. This figure, although not it is implied, but it was never said by the designers that they were designing him strictly on the Todd McFarlane's version. The spider logo on his chest is the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man version. The intricate tight webbing, the pattern on the suit is the Todd McFarlane style webbing for the suit. The larger expressive eyes, that is a Todd McFarlane invention, you could say. Like I said earlier, the muscular but thinner frame body is a Todd. This is supposed to be the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man, although it's not to a 100% McFarlane style. What the other thing that the designers of this figure, said was that he has an all new articulated system, right? So he has the ability to be able to pull off all of those exaggerated poses with little effort, right? And you're going to get all of that in a package that is worth $50. Now, it is worth mentioning, when Hasbro premiered or introduced us to the Maximum Series Spider-Man on a live stream, they didn't mention pricing on the figure, which is rare, right? 2 weeks, I believe, or I believe, yeah, I was wrong, or it was no, I'm sorry, 2 days, 2 days before the figure would go out on pre-order, they didn't even announce the price. Someone on Instagram, made a comment like, okay, so what is the price for this figure? Before all of that, a lot of people were speculating, Between me and my group of friends, I told them I think this is gonna be around $35 for everything. They showed us everything that was gonna come with the package. And I was like, I think it's worth $35. You got your standard figure, you got your standard one. If we take into account one extra head sculpt, and then Spider-Man usually comes with two extra fists, interchangeable hands. So you take that out, and then you add in the extras. Like, okay, it's probably not worth more than $15 extra worth of extra plastic worth of stuff. And then I had other friends like, oh no, I can see them charging 50. I was like, no way, that's too much. And yeah, they ended up charging $50. So kudos to my buddy. Um, so as far as I don't know how he based off his pricing. I forgot. I think for instance, the Ghost Rider, the most recent Ghost Rider, that came with the bike, that was $50. The last Phoenix figure that came out, that has the large bird, made out of flame and all of that. Well, I mean, not real flame, but plastic painted to look like flame. It's a huge It's a huge bird. That's a lot of plastic. That package was $50, and a whole other things, that Marvel has released, that you could say and look at it and be like, I can see that being worth $50. I did not see this being worth $50. If this figure was 35, I was going to get two. So I was committed to getting two at 35 plus, tax and shipping if need be and all of that. But I was not going to get two at 50. So I was getting the figure, the way I can justify it to myself paying for it is because, yes, I really wanted it. I wasn't happy with the price, but it's either pay the 50 now versus maybe paying 50 in the future for just the figure in the secondary market and nothing else, or paying 100 or 150 or whatever. I haven't even checked eBay prices on this thing, so I don't know what it's going on, what it's going for, right? So if I miss out, it's gonna get it more expensive later on. So for me, it was worth it to pay the 50 at that moment than not getting it. And like I said, I was committed to getting two if the price was $35, which is 70 plus again taxes and shipping and all of that. But I ordered mine through Amazon, and we'll touch on that also in just a bit. So Amazon offers free shipping. So all I had to do was pay the taxes, California state taxes. So I was committed to paying already, upwards of close to 80, if need be. But that was it. I wasn't gonna pay 100 or something for two figures because I did want two, one to keep in this version, and then a second one to customize, to be a little more comic accurate and all of that, yada yada yada. So I only just ended up getting the one. In the future, if by miracle this thing would go on discount, which I highly doubt, but I don't, you never know. If it comes down on discount, for around $40, I may pull the trigger. I don't know. We shall see. So near the end, I'm gonna. So we're gonna ask the question, for you, is it worth it? I just asked the question, but again, we'll go into a little more, detail after we check out everything that it comes with the figure. So give me just 1 second, and we will pull everything out of the package. So here we have everything that comes with Maximum Spider-Man, which is, obviously more than your standard offering for a Spider-Man figure. So typically, what you would get with a Spider-Man lately is, of course, you would get the figure, right? And a standard set of fists. Additionally, you would get your wall crawling hands. Okay. And you would also get your sweeping hands. Although to be fair, they didn't just remold old hands. Or I guess maybe we can compare in the future with other releases. But I'm pretty sure all of these are new. This one is definitely newly molded. This sweeping hand, which is a little more expressive in terms of how it is presented. It's not the straight up. The fingers, the pointing and the pinky are all straight up, whereas on this one you got you got them that are slightly more curved. So that's different. And then you get 2 extra head sculpts. Now, normally we would get an unmasked Peter Parker with your basic figure. So let's take a look at the unmasked head sculpt here. A lot has been said about this head sculpt. How creepy he looks and all of that. It's definitely not in close to being the McFarlane Peter Parker. I mean, he has the curls at the top of the head, which is how McFarlane drew him. But as far as like the facial features, McFarlane, keep in mind, McFarlane draws in a very cartoony style. Unlike a lot of his contemporaries of the of that era, the Jim Lees, the Liefelds, the Silvestris, and the like. He and Sylvester, I'm sorry, not Silvestri, Eric Larson still retained a little more cartoony look to their style, which they could get, so they would be able to get a variety of characters featured in their comics. So to me, the moment I saw this head sculpt, I don't know if you're familiar with the actor B.J. Novak. He was on The Office, and he was in Inglourious Bastards. He's the guy that's near at the end of the movie. He's the only one left other than Brad Pitt's character. After they take out the Hans Lanza or whatever the guy's name, they're the guys at the end that make it out. That's who this guy reminds me of. This particular, I'll put a picture up on the side, see if the comparison. So yeah, so that's the other thing that you would get on a typical Spider-Man release. All of that in the back. And all of this is new stuff. So what do you get that is new? Let's start with the webs. So you get this one, which is a cool webbing that you would use in conjunction with this stand right here. So, it's a shooting web that you can use, to ensnare, an opponent, a foe, Green Goblin, Venom, Carnage, the likes. So it's more of an action type web that he's typically shooting at. So that's why we can use that in conjunction with this stand. So there's a hole near one of the here it is. So you would plug it like this, and for photography you can use it as a shooting, for him pose it. You can pose him as if he's shooting a web at someone. Same for this one right here. That reminds a lot of people of something of another type of fluid that comes out of the body. But you can use this also as a shooting web feature. Now, before anyone wonders, no, the stand does not work with the figure. One, because the figure does not have a hole to plug into the stand. And second, well, other than at the base of the feet, and trust me, I've already tried, and no, you can't use it. The stand does not hold up to the weight of the figure. And they just keep this like this. So you got those webs, and the stand. You got these webs, which are very much appreciated. The thing is, they're wobbly, they're flimsy. You can't really use them other than maybe just hanging from somewhere and having him hold on to these webs with these gripping hands that we have here. So these are new. Okay, so you can use, the thing is that these webs are so thick that they're, that they almost look like rope, right? But there you can see how you would be able to hold on to these webs. So we're gonna put that one and hold on. And to their credit, these are different type webs. Let me just pull on the other fist here so I don't lose it. These webs are different from one another. One has the two ends that end up in a ball. This one has one balled up end, and the other one has like a loose threaded webbing end to it. If you've seen my videos, you know that I already make my own spider webbings, which are, this is what I've been saying as far as, scaling for 1/12 figures. To me, these webs, while appreciated, are just too thick. They're too thick. They're, like I said, they almost look like a rope. So I would have preferred if Hasbro, thinned them down a little bit and made them, wired. A lot of people have been saying that they're gonna try and thread, bendy wire through them to use them. I can see how you could probably do it, but you would just be adding to the thickness of the webs already. What I think that if you're gonna get the bendy wire, might as well just make your own. Just like I've been saying in other videos, get thin gauged wire, 24 gauge, 26 gauge, and use these. Look at the pattern of the webbing and how it's designed. and try and mimic this. Try and mimic this instead. That's my advice. Okay, the other set of hands that we have, which are new and also very cool, we've got these hands that are sweeping hands that have web coming out of them. So, there we go. So I think if we would have gotten just these instead of the standard web sweeping hands, people would have been fine. But they gave us both, which is cool, right? Then we have the web shield, which I believe a lot of people have been saying this is pretty much like a they are tipping the cap to the Capcom game, Marvel versus Capcom, that the Spider-Man was able to generate a shield. I'm pretty sure he might have done it in the comics as well, but a lot of people reference the video game instead, which is what makes people think and wonder that there may be a Marvel versus Capcom game, Marvel versus Capcom version of Spider-Man coming out also. So it has the typical clip system, like we've seen recently, like with the with Captain America and the Secret Wars wave. The C clip. Just put it on his wrist. Speaking of wrists, so we have these alternate hands, which are ungloved hands, which sees how the spider web mechanism works for Spider-Man and why he does the devil horns. Because that's how the spider webs come out through his wrist. Okay. The thing is that these alternate hands are not posable other than through the port where they attach on the wrist on the figure, because these hands do not turn or twist or anything at the wrist. So what you do is you exchange them up here and just plug them in. I'm sorry, I don't know if you saw it. There you go. There you go. Oop. Now, again, while appreciated, personally, I'm never gonna use these hands. Again, people that use photography, stop motion, and all of that do way more stuff with their figures than just put them on a shelf. They will probably get more use out of these, right? Maybe that's where they see the value in a bunch of the stuff that comes with the figure. But again, me personally, and also the hands are a little too larger than normal. If you just compare them with the other set of sweeping hands that he has, I'll be knocking off the light here. If you compare them with the other set of hands, you can see that these are way too big. So there you go. The other thing is I would probably just avoid, well, personally, I don't want to keep exchanging the wrists back and forth and risking getting this connection point to loose, so Then we're coming on to near the end of the accessories. So we have also for the I guess for the first time we've had a spider sense effect. Uh, a lot of people have been complaining that it should have been yellow because typically the spider sense has been, or traditionally the spider sense has been shown as being yellow. I don't remember. So to me, it's whatever the color. If you want to repaint it, it's all just on an acrylic piece. If you want to repaint it, so be it. Go ahead. And this simply goes on the top of the head like a crown. So this is what we'll show the second alternate head, which is a slightly different version. Well, I mean, it's the same head, except the for this eye right here, that is a little closer, closed. I'm sorry, can't speak. In its expression, so he's almost like, you know, wandering, right? So which is perfect for this second. I'm sorry, which is perfect for the Spidey sense effect. So if it blends well, unless you're hitting it with light, but it blends well into the backgrounds. You can see right there, so you can't even tell sometimes that, the outline of the acrylic, so it works fine. So there you have all of that. I'm not gonna do the pose the challenge or anything like that with other figures in this video. I will be doing a separate video comparing the whole bunch of other Spider-Man figures that I have, how well the previous releases compared to this maximum series. But I will show you. We'll go into the posing and articulation right now. Okay, so before we get into the posing, I just wanna mention one thing. So one of the things that the figure has had in terms of additional controversy is QC issues, particularly with the webbing pattern on the stamped webbing pattern on the head sculpts. Mine in particular, like I said, I ordered mine through Amazon, and what I have noticed is that most orders that come through Amazon have had the similar issue of the web pattern on the head being off, and mine is no different. You can see how up front the web is a little thicker than on the back end, and you can see as we rotate how the web is skewed right there in the middle. You can see how the web pattern skews off, so it's slightly off. You can see by the rim of the eye facing the camera on the left, this side right here. By the top rim of the eye, you can see how one webbing is touching, and on this side it's not. So you can see how the web pattern is skewed towards this side over here. So that's one issue that I have with this figure. The other issue is that here on the shoulder, if we pull back, you can see this splotch right there. I don't know if it's red paint that is missing, or that's a blue, or that's a blotch of blue paint on top of the red. Before I started recording this video, I've had the figure for a few weeks now. It arrived late April. So I'm just recording this video because I've been trying to figure out how to approach this thing better, and also, test it out and everything. So, but Yeah, this out of the box, that blotch was right there. It was hidden. Like if you did it, if you never noticed it throughout the video, that's how the figure was. Well, I didn't notice at first when I pulled it out of the package until I rotated the shoulder. So that's the second QC issue that I have with this figure. Other than that, I don't believe I had another issue with as far as the web pattern or the figure itself. Um, that's why I've been using the alternate head, the other alternate spider web head. Um, the pattern on this one is a little cleaner. You can see how even though the lines up front are a little thicker, but they are definitely more in place where they should be. So I've been using this head instead as my standard uh, base head of the figure. What I plan on doing with this one is repainting the left eye, the one here on the right, the left eye to match this eye, and now I have matching eyes. So this is the head sculpt that I've been using on this guy because it does have the better web pattern. Now let's get into the articulation. So one of the features that the team at Hasbro have been mentioning is, it has an all new articulated system. No, it does not have an all quote unquote all new articulated system. No, it still has the standard shoulder articulation. Okay, you can get a decent T-post out of this. It does have the standard double elbow articulation. Okay, it does have the standard upper diaphragm ball system and the hinge waist. A lot of people have been saying they should have implied the double ball peg so that you'd be able to twist at the waist. How stupid is how? Okay, I was about to go off on a rant, but I'll save that at the end. It does have the standard thigh swivel, the standard knee articulation, the standard boot cut, and the standard ankle articulation with the hinge with the twist, and for Spider-Man figures the toe articulation. Okay, all of that. Oh, and the butterfly, which is standard on a lot of figures. What they did is the only thing that they did is rework the butterfly system so that the shoulders can now get their full range going forward and back more easily. What we used to do to modify and get this out of the standard butterfly hinge was we had to remove the shoulder, cut off a part of the peg that connected into the shoulder, and that allowed us room to maneuver the butterfly. So what I'm sure what they did is exactly the same thing, and just cut off a bit of the connector that plugs into the shoulder, the butterfly, to be able to do this. So this is not new. Oh, okay, not new, not new, not new, not new, not new, not okay. None of that is new. The only thing that is new is this, which if you have this, you don't need this, but because of the gimmick of the swappable wrists, you have this this motion, right? This forearm motion. So you can call that part of the articulation, although it's not really, but okay. The other bit of articulation that they added was for the neck. So they finally gave us a separate neck piece, right? That you can twist, and it enables you to either lower the head a little bit further or push it back a little bit further. Although there we go. You can see the range. It's not the best. A lot of people have been modifying this to get a better, deeper bend forward and backwards. And you still have the standard ball hinge system. And with a deeper cut at the back of the head, and you can now get Spider-Man to look fairly upwards, So it's not so much that they reworked it's not so much that they added an all new articulation system. They just added stuff and made it work as it should have in the first place, not counting, of course, the added neck articulation. And also the drop down hips. They've started to implement the drop down hips recently, fairly recent in the last couple of years. But again, that's not new. What they did on this particular figure is that the drop down hinge goes further down than typical. Whereas usually you would probably only get about maybe 2/3 of the run. Now, by comparison of the current maximum drop down hinge, now you get that much of a drop down. But you still can't get them to do a freaking split. And why is that? Because the cut at the top, I wonder if I can remove the, yes. The cut at the top of the hip is still not deep enough or further out to allow the stem of the ball joint system to hit. Well, the idea is that once this part makes contact with this, you want it to make contact further out, right? For it to be able to do a good split. So all they have to do is just make this cut further out so that you'll be able to do the split. And they can pull it off and still hide it behind the standard. If you look at the figure from the top, you wouldn't be able to see the deeper cut. All right, so that's that. So what can the figure do then? So again, in conjunction with a lot of the stuff that they've been doing, so yes, you can get the figure to do a crazy poses. He can put up his head over of his ankles, like this. So you are able to pull off these crazy McFarlane style poses, so that you can get them easily without any effort to pull off any recreations of the Spider-Man poses, McFarlane styles poses. Excuse me. So you can pretzel him up all you want, and he'll be able to do it with no issues. But the thing is, if they would have added the ball, the double ball system here at the waist or at the hip, you would have probably gotten an even better articulated figure, for one, because you're adding a twist at the waist, not just at the upper diaphragm. The other thing that I would have appreciated that they would have done is rework how the system works for the knees, because this looks ugly. Right? I like the way how Mafex does it, where they have a piece how the knee is still looks natural in terms of how it juts out from the thigh and the calf muscle and the calf, but it also looks, it doesn't look like a toy. It almost looks like how the human body does the bend. Same for the elbow. I mean, this still looks like an action figure toy, but if they would have reworked it somehow so that it looks a little more, even more like the comic representation, but also regular human body, right? So that's one thing that I would have appreciated if they actually did rework. The other thing that I don't like on this figure, they still give these figures these huge duck feet. I mean, I'm gonna show you in the future custom Spider-Man, that black suit Spider-Man, where I reduced the size of the feet. Even though these feet are actually new feet, they're new molds. Another thing is, this is an entirely new mold, right? Like I mentioned earlier. But they still they give these characters these huge feet. The feet should be about a quarter of the size less, in my opinion. It's just too big. The, you know, compare the size of this hand, the fist, to the feet. I don't know. It's just no. Okay, now we're entering the final part of the video, where I'm gonna go off. So the idea of charging the $50 for the figure. Okay, so one of the reasons that they always mention is, oh, a new mold. Okay. The recent She-Hulk that came out, that I showed you, that I did a custom repaint. That figure is a new mold. Okay, that figure is a new mold, which will probably only see a reuse for other figures, for other She-Hulk figures, and we're gonna get a new She-Hulk repaint with her in the Fantastic Four suit. That mold is way more exclusive and will see less use than this mold right here. Even though they're saying that this is a mold exclusive, oh, not exclusive, but that they made it exclusively for this figure. Don't buy that. Don't believe that. They're gonna reuse this mold. They may change, let's say, the thighs. They may change the size of the calves. They may change the size of the maybe not the arms, but the forearms. Definitely, they're gonna definitely use this option for something else. But the base body itself, it's probably gonna get reused a few times. Most people speculate with a Daredevil. We're most definitely going to get a Black Suit Spider-Man in this buck for sure. Whether it's the maximum version or not, I don't know. As far as the Daredevil goes, we're definitely going to get a maximum Daredevil soonish, sometime in the future, and it's definitely going to use this body. So this body itself is going to get reused, okay? It's not just going to be an exclusive body for Spider-Man. So, I'm going back to that She-Hulk figure. That She-Hulk figure is an all-new sculpt, which will likely get used less than this buck. And that figure came with the standard um, uh, extra hands, an accessory of a broken a rifle, a gun being broken up, and that figure was $25. Okay, you weren't charged more for that She-Hulk figure because they made a new mold. No, you were charged the standard, even the because even the figure itself is bigger than this Spider-Man. It was a larger figure. It would even give Hasbro the excuse to charge more because it's a bigger figure. So instead of charging the standard 25, they could have upcharged it to, I don't know, 30 if they wanted to, because it's a bigger figure, more mass than the standard off Marvel Legend offering. You're only getting one extra set of hands, and you're getting, like I said, an extra accessory, which for most figures is maybe an alternate head. Not everyone gets an alternate head. But that figure was a standard release, and you weren't upcharged because it had a new mold. So the idea of Hasbro saying, "Oh well, you're gonna get an all new mold, so therefore we have to charge you a little bit more." No, you make new molds all the time so that you can reuse them. So that the idea is that with the new mold, you're improving on the previous releases, right? And it's going to set the standard for the next, I don't know, 5 or so years until you come up with a new mold, right? For the next half decade. So don't believe anytime someone says to you, "Oh, they used a new mold." No, that's part of their business. You're supposed to come up with different molds because not all characters are made the same, right? So, despite them reusing, how many countless reuses of that old what was it, the Bucky cap mold, until that got used to infinity and beyond, and then came the Vulcan body and all of that. So and now they're gonna have a new standard body Buck, which is gonna be this one going forward for certain characters. They're gonna come up with a new Buck for another character that's gonna help for bigger bodied characters like Captain America and all of that, larger bodied figures. So making new molds for figures is part of their business. They can't charge you extra for what is already part of their business, right? Oh, but they added articulation. All they did is add something that the classified line has had since day one: the articulated neck and the drop-down hips. So that's not new technology, quote unquote. It's it's an articulation scheme that they've had already in the in Hasbro, right? For what, 4 years now, 5 years, however long the classified line has been out, and they're just now starting to implement it in Marvel Legends. The only other figure that I have with the articulated neck is the Iron Man figure that I reviewed that has the what is it, the Mark 20, that has an articulated neck. And the recent released Ultimate Iron Man has the ball waist, the ball peg, the ball system, the double ball peg waist that a lot of people would have wanted on their Maximum Spider-Man. So you have your standard figure, right? You have your standard extra head. You have your standard extra flipping hands. And you have your standard wall crawling hands. That is what you've been getting as far as a $25 Spider-Man action figure for the past, I don't know, 5 years or so. So now we're adding this, this, these, this, 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 and these. Are you saying, let me just rework this. Are you telling me that all of this, let me just rework this because I didn't think it out. There we go. So, are you telling me that all of this does all of this equal the value of this? And my answer is absolutely not. Hell no. I wish I would have gotten one of those like food scales, so I would be able to weigh it maybe for the next maybe for when I do the comparison video with other figures. I can get it in time to see how much weight in terms of pure plastic we have with this versus this to make a better fair assessment. But when you're looking at all of this pile of plastic and you look at this pile of plastic, are you telling me that it's the same value? No, it's not. In my opinion, it's not. Again, I paid the money. So, of course, you're going to say, well, Eric, you still paid the money. Yes, I paid the money. I paid the money because, like I said, it's better to get the figure for $50 now with everything, despite not needing everything. But it's better off to get the figure new with everything for $50 than maybe just getting this, for $50. I'm sorry, getting just this for $50 in the secondary in the aftermarket, So I might as well just pay for everything to get it now for $50 than having to pay, two or three times the price for maybe, and then really feeling stupid. The way I see it, what I paid for this figure is $35 plus $15 for, I don't know, because the McFarlane tax, let's call it the McFarlane tax. Okay, I paid $35 plus $15 for the McFarlane task to finally get the Spider-Man figure that I've always wanted. That's basically what I've been chasing since as far as Spider-Man figures go. That's the one that I've been chasing all this time, a McFarlane Spider-Man, and it finally came here. So that's how I'm looking at it. I had to pay the McFarlane tax to finally get a McFarlane Spider-Man figure. And a lot of people were speculating. The news just came out recently that Hasbro has, I'm sorry, Disney, Marvel have renewed their agreement with Hasbro for extended it for a few more years. A lot of people were speculating maybe McFarlane Toys would jump in and grab the Marvel license since they were doing statues and with them, you know. So a lot of people were hoping, okay, we'll then finally get a true by the designer, the creator of the true '90s Spider-Man inspiration, McFarlane himself doing a Spider-Man figure. So, but no, obviously, the only thing you're gonna get close to that is one of those statues that he's released. So, no action figures just yet. So, again, that's how I see it. I would rather have paid them $50 up front to get this, you know, and just do whatever with all of this. I appreciate that I did get, like I said, a second head sculpt because, or a third head sculpt, because if I'd have been just stuck with that one, I would have been really pissed. So the fact that I got the second head sculpt or the third head sculpt, a second masked head with the pattern that is cleaner that I can use, you know, I'm still pissed that I got the blotch, the blue blotch on the butterfly, you know. But all in all, I just think that um, well, whatever. As we have a saying here in Mexico, se pasaron de vergas. They went over Hasbro crossed the line on that. They said, "F you fans, we're gonna charge you 50. You're gonna pay for it because we know you want it." So, and yeah, the figure did sell out, right? The figure did sell out in various places, but it's back up on Amazon, or at least Amazon Mexico has it. And people are finding it in stores. I've seen videos of people finding it in Best Buy, of all places. So when people say, oh, it's sold out. Well, yeah, but it's sold out of their allotted inventory, which at that time was probably limited. And we don't know. One, we don't know what the full production run of this thing is. They probably made it close, I don't know, 50,000 units, 100,000, because they knew that it's a Spider-Man figure. Every Spider-Man figure sells out. You never see it go on discount, right? Half the stock usually goes to scalpers who grab up everything, and try to flood the market, the aftermarket with it, not knowing that that's not how you're going to get the best out of it, So please, people, don't buy scalper prices. So yeah, all in all, so no, yeah, all in all, am I happy I have the figure? Yes, I'm happy because I can do all of the things that I've been, I'm still going to do some things on this figure for sure. Maybe not as many as I've done on others, right? To reach the maximum potential, but yeah, I'm happy that I have the figure because the figure itself is worth, you know, a price. Is it $50 worth all of this? I mean, like I said, I paid for it, but the way that I'm looking at it is I had to pay a $15 McFarlane tax to get it. That's how I'm justifying it. And the other reason, again, like I said, I was looking to buy two, so I was already, pot committed to like $80. So that money was already, accounted for to getting, two, but definitely at least one of this. So again, Hasbro it's definitely a shady. Oh, okay. I'm definitely gonna do a rant video on the Ultimate Hulk because I was really hoping that Hulk was gonna knock it out of the park because I don't own a Hulk. I really wanted a Hulk. So if the price was right for that Hulk, if the standard price for a maximum line is $50, regardless of size, I probably I would have liked to have that Hulk. But after seeing what they did with the Hulk, I'm definitely gonna do a video in the future just on that. I'm not getting it, which sucks because I really did want to get a Hulk. But that Hulk that they're gonna release in the maximum line, they okay, never mind. So anyway, what do you think of the figure? Do you own it? Do you think it's worth the 50? Or how are you, if you own it and you paid the 50, how are you justifying paying for the 50? Are you like me? They're like, that is like, I'd rather pay the 50 up front than wait and then pay double or triple in the aftermarket. Or or also you like me that, I had to pay the McFarlane tax, to get the figure that I've always wanted, so a lot of people aren't fans, and that's the other thing. A lot of people aren't fans of the McFarlane style. So a lot of people are just getting it, don't care about the McFarlane aspect about the figure. They just want a figure that articulates better, and they're gonna swap out the heads for other versions of Spider-Man that they already have that fits their preferred look. But in my case, my preferred look is the McFarlane look. So that's it. So yeah, this video has gone on longer than even without the comparisons. Like I said, I'm gonna do a separate video for that. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.